Have you ever considered that a single thought in our hearts truly holds such immense power? A power great enough to alter our destiny? Today, we're going to discuss a profound story. You will discover that your inner thoughts will truly determine whether you receive blessings or, conversely, invite loss. The story begins with an event that could almost be called a miracle. A person who had been blind for many years, after meeting a great spiritual practitioner, suddenly regained their sight in a flash. What exactly happened? Was it a simple miracle, or was there a deeper karmic connection behind it? To understand this, we must rewind the clock to find the ultimate source of it all. Our story takes place in Sakti, and the protagonist is a Brahman who could not see. However, he possessed a very special skill. Even though he was blind, his hearing was exceptionally keen. He could discern the moral quality of a person just by the sound of their voice. He even knew that the most perfect sound was called the Brahma voice, and he believed that only a fully enlightened Buddha would possess this sound. He had been searching for this voice. Eventually, he was brought before the Buddha. When he heard the Buddha's voice speaking the Dharma, the power of that sound was overwhelming. Not only did his physical eyes suddenly see, but more importantly, the eye of wisdom within him opened simultaneously. Everyone was astonished and asked the Buddha how this was accomplished. The Buddha replied, "Actually, this is not the first time we have met. Long ago, in a past life, I once gave him a pair of eyes." The story then shifts to a very ancient era. In that time, the Buddha's past incarnation was a king named Satir Siddhi. This king had a very crucial understanding about life and our actions. What was his thinking? He said it's like a farmer. If you're lazy and don't sow seeds in the spring, how can you expect a harvest in the autumn? Therefore, he believed that the blessings he currently possessed were not meant for enjoyment, but rather to seize the opportunity to plant more future good causes in the field of merit. In other words, he regarded giving dana as a kind of investment. However, his resolve to give everything away immediately made it most extreme test. An opposing king, who was extremely jealous of his virtue, devised a vicious scheme. He came to ask for something that he knew King Satir would definitely give. The king's own eyes. When the king announced that he would have his eyes gouged out and give them to a Brahman, you can imagine the entire kingdom was in an uproar. His family, the queen, the crown prince, and all the ministers and people all came to plead with him, begging him not to do this. But the king's perspective was completely different from everyone else's. His view was unshakable. He said, "These two physical eyes are inherently fragile things that will decay. I am using this then to practice giving in order to pursue the supreme, eternal eye of wisdom on the Buddha." He considered this not a loss, but a very worthwhile transaction. So he told everyone not to obstruct his determination to pursue the highest goal. Later, the king truly gave away his eyes, and a miracle occurred. His eyes grew back, and they were even better than before. But the focus of the story is not this miracle. The master's teaching is meant to show us the deeper secret behind this act. So, now we come to the crucial point. The act of gouging out his eyes is truly astonishing. Right, so what was the true source of the king's power to perform this deed? Was it the physical act of eye gouging itself, or was there another, more fundamental reason? The master explained that the source of all the king's power was a concept called right thought or right intention. What is right thought? Simply put, it is a kind of wisdom that allows you to cease your present suffering or happiness. To understand that your every thought today, your every action, is like planting a seed. It will determine what kind of fruit you will receive tomorrow, or even in the more distant future. Now, the contrast is very interesting. What is the difference between giving with wisdom and giving without wisdom? Even though both involve giving, look, the king viewed this test as a rare opportunity. While an ordinary person might see it as a loss, the king was planting seeds for long-term wisdom. While an ordinary person might only be acting out of momentary pity or impulse, the actions look very similar, but the underlying motivation and the future result are worlds apart. So the master's key point is right here. Without such right thought, there can be no such right action. This means that the king's incredible act was actually just the result. The true cause was that very powerful, very clear thought pattern within his mind. Once we understand the importance of right thought, if we look back at the story, we might find that the definition of who is good and who is bad might be completely overturned in our imagination. You can think about this in the story. Who truly helped the king fulfill his vow? And who were those who, out of good intentions, actually became stumbling blocks for him? The answer might surprise you. Look at the opposing king. Superficially, he came to harm the king, right? In reality, he created an opportunity. Therefore, he was the one who perfected the king. Conversely, his most loving family and people who wanted to protect him, their intention was love on the surface. But because they were thinking with emotion, they became the biggest obstacles on the king's path of cultivation. This brings out a very cool principle in the master's teachings. Rely on wisdom, not on emotion. Think about it. If the king had listened to his family then and followed his emotions, would his goal of pursuing supreme wisdom have failed? After all this discussion, we must bring this profound principle back to our own lives. What is the significance of this for us today? The ultimate message of this story is that true blessings do not come from the outside. They are not about how much money you have or what good things happen. True blessings are created by the quality of your inner thoughts. Our reality is not just about what happens, but how your mind interprets that event. Your every thought is the seed of your future. So, here is a final question for everyone. A question we can always use for self-reflection. The thought that arises in your mind at this very moment. What kind of future is it creating for you?